It's me, Steph, from Jack and Steph's Workshop, here to talk about assembling the Party Frank pin. Your kit will come with everything you need: 2 multicolor LEDs, 1 battery strap, and the pin back. You'll also need a pair of snips, a black permanent marker, and a soldering iron, ideally one with an adjustable temperature. Now we'll begin our assembly by turning over the pin and working on the backside. Starting with the black permanent marker, we'll fill in this section above the battery contacts and below the LED contacts to prevent light leaks. And then we're going to put a dot on the shades up here just to mark which side is the back. Now back to the front side, notice these scored lines. These are called V-cuts, and it's what we use to detach one part of the PCB from another, so we can just pop Frank out like that. And Frank's optional shades should pop out just as easily. Now we'll also snap off and keep this top bit. You'll see what it's for soon. And this square is needed for manufacturing, but now it's unfortunately waste. Okay, moving on. Our multicolor LEDs have a short leg and a long leg. The short leg being the negative and the long leg being the positive. So they will go to the negative pad here. The short leg will go to the negative pad here, which I will tin up with some solder. And then I will heat up the leg and push it down into the solder. I do this because the 5mm LED is so large that things tend to roll around. So that's why I pre-tin the pad. I'll now just solder the positive connection in a sort of ordinary way, and then I will tin up the pad here and attach the short leg again. Short leg goes to the negative pad in the same fashion. Alignment wise, the legs should stick over the eye cutouts just a bit, as you see here, not too much. So one more time on the positive pad. Sorry, I blocked the action there. And our LEDs are connected. Next step will be to trim these legs shorter. So I'll just speed through this, but you can see my rusty but trusty clippers in action, removing the LED legs. And my snips are a little dull these days, and so I didn't get the cleanest cuts here. Don't worry about that if that happens to you, because in the next step, we're going to bend these LEDs over, and they'll physically cover those sharp edges, any sharpness that gets left behind. So go ahead, just bend over the LEDs so they end up somewhere behind the eye cutouts. And that is looking good. Now we're ready to move on to the battery pad. And the first step is to just put some solder onto the negative pad here on the center. This wants to be raised up from the surface a bit so that the negative side of the battery makes a good connection. Okay, so next we'll get the battery holder itself, and we want to heat up the pad and the leg of the holder at the same time with the soldering iron, so that when we apply the solder, it flows over and between them. Now mind this bottom edge, because it's so close to the bottom that it might show from the front. So I just tap it out of alignment ever so slightly, just to make sure that nothing shows from the front. And then, like the other side, we'll heat up the leg and the pad for a good, strong connection. All right, that is looking good. Now on to the last step on the back side, which is the pin. And if you have an adjustable temperature soldering iron, now is the time to turn it up. So the pin will go on this circle here, which is actually part of a much larger ground plane. And so heating it is a bit of a challenge. So that's why we turned up the temperature on our iron. If you don't have an adjustable temperature iron, you might just have to leave your iron here at this stage for a bit longer to fully heat up that pad. And you can see here even my solder tends to freeze as the copper plane heats up underneath it. But in no time at all, really, it has a nice connection. And then don't forget to turn your temperature back down. Now I know that step can be kind of tricky, but nobody said raising the dead would be easy. Okay, so that is looking sharp, and now it's time to make it look even sharper. The optional shades have some chaff left over at the top. Would you call it chaff? From the V-cut. And so I just use a nail file, and I take that down just a little bit. The top of Frank's head also has some chaff from the V-cut, and so the nail file, sandpaper, anything like that. Make short work of that, and it makes for a tidier finished product. So in an earlier step, we put a black dot with a marker on the backside of the shades. That's because these shades aren't symmetrical, and it's easier to fit them properly in the correct alignment. So we'll add some solder on the backside to both left and right edges of the shades. And then on Frankenstein's face, we'll add a hefty blob of solder to both of Frank's upper ear piercings here. So we'll tin those up. That's what the sunglasses are going to connect to. And so next we're going to build ourselves a little tool for placing the glasses, because the glasses placement isn't the easiest thing in the world, but this tool makes it a lot easier. So we'll take a piece of tape and we'll attach the glasses to the PCB placement arm, which we call that. Okay, that looks really good. So this arm will allow us to place the glasses with a certain amount of precision. And once we're happy with this position, we can lock it down by pressing down on the tape, which will hold our glasses in our preferred position while we solder both sides. So now another big blob of solder can go, and I'll just lift the glasses up a little bit and then push them down into the wet solder. And we can see that this is now firmly attached, not going anywhere. And so we can repeat the same step on the other side with just another blob of solder and a slight pickup, a slight lift of the glasses so that we form like a little solder sandwich in between the glasses and Party Frank's face. Okay, and so if that side is firmly attached, which it is, we are ready to remove the tape. And notice when the arm comes out here that it's left a space underneath the glasses, which gives a kind of cool extra 3D effect to this pin. All right, so now let's put in the battery and test our LEDs. Under our studio lights, these LEDs don't look as bright as they do in real life. So let's get a sense of what these are like at a party. All right, that's enough. That's enough tech now. To turn it off, flip the battery over. That's all you have to do. And you're all done except for the decorations, really. We can apply some solder to the bolts on Frank's neck to give them a nice kind of rounded and metallic finish of a different shade than the gold sunglasses. The gold plating, by the way, is real gold. And speaking of precious metals, your solder should be silver, because if it's leaded solder, that's not healthy to touch. And this is the kind of object that we touch a lot. So the solder should be silver. Plus, it's classy to go with the gold. And I think it looks great as a finish.